The year is 1888, a time of great uncertainty and change. The air crackles with unease, as if the very atmosphere is charged with impending doom. Welcome to Cryptic Mystic Vault, where we dive deep into the hidden history of human civilization. Tsar Konstantin Tih, a man of iron will and steeled nerves, surveys his realm with a discerning eye, a kingdom teetering on the brink of chaos and collapse. The weight of centuries of tradition rests upon his shoulders, yet the foundations of his authority are beginning to crumble under the strain. A spectre haunts his reign, the chilling whisper of rebellion growing louder each day. Constantine inherited a kingdom riddled with contradictions and deep-seated divisions, a land of vast wealth and abject poverty, where the rich live in opulence and the poor in squalor. Glistening palaces cast long shadows upon overcrowded slums, highlighting the stark disparities. The opulence of the aristocracy mocks the plight of the starving masses, creating a deep sense of injustice. And beneath the veneer of imperial grandeur, resentment festers and grows. The seeds of discontent, sown in generations of injustice, are about to bear bitter fruit, threatening the stability of the realm. The very fabric of society is strained to its breaking point, with tensions running high. A rigid social hierarchy, a relic of a bygone era, stifles ambition and fuels resentment among the populace. The peasantry, burdened by crippling taxes and bound to the land, toil ceaselessly for a pittance, their lives marked by hardship. The burgeoning middle class, stifled by archaic regulations, chafes under the yoke of aristocratic privilege, yearning for change. The winds of change are blowing across the land, carrying with them the intoxicating scent of revolution and the promise of a new order. Constantine, a keen observer of human nature, understands the precariousness of his position and the dangers that lie ahead. He knows that the simmering discontent could erupt into open rebellion at any moment, threatening his rule. He is a man accustomed to power, to the unquestioning obedience of his subjects, yet he feels the ground shifting beneath him. Yet even he cannot ignore the rumbling of discontent echoing throughout his kingdom, a harbinger of the storm to come. The storm. Konstantin Tih was not born to rule. His destiny was never meant to be intertwined with the heavy burden of the crown. A younger son thrust into the spotlight by a cruel twist of fate, he was unprepared for the responsibilities that awaited him. He ascended to the throne upon the untimely demise of his elder brother, Tsar Alexei, a man beloved by his people and respected by his peers. The circumstances of Alexei's death, shrouded in rumor and speculation, cast a long shadow over Constantine's reign, filling the court with unease. Whispers of poison and treachery followed him like a curse, haunting his every move and decision. His early years were a harsh apprenticeship in the art of power, a relentless education in the ways of the court. Raised in the grandeur of the Winter Palace, surrounded by the machinations of court, he learned the intricate dance of diplomacy and the brutal reality of political survival. The palace, with its opulent halls and secretive corridors, was both his home and his battlefield. He witnessed firsthand the ruthlessness of his father, Tsar Nikolai, a man who ruled with an iron fist and an unyielding will. Constantine was a study in contrasts, a man torn between different worlds and expectations. A man of great intellect and fierce passions, he was both a scholar and a warrior. He was a patron of the arts and sciences, yet he could be ruthless in his pursuit of power, often making decisions that seemed cold and calculated. He was a loving husband and father, yet he was capable of great cruelty, a duality that perplexed those around him. He was a man of contradictions, shaped by the weight of history and the burdens of his birthright, constantly struggling to reconcile his personal desires with his public duties. The kingdom he inherited was a tapestry woven from glory and decay, a land of immense beauty and profound suffering. His grandfather, Tsar Peter the Great, had dragged the nation into the modern age, forging a mighty empire through conquest and reform, leaving a legacy that was both a blessing and a curse. Yet beneath the glittering facade of imperial power lay deep-seated problems, issues that threatened the very foundation of the empire. The vast gulf between rich and poor, the oppressive serfdom system, the rampant corruption within the bureaucracy, these were the festering wounds on the body politic, left untreated for far too long. Constantine's reign would be defined by his attempts to heal these wounds, a task that would test his resolve and his legacy. The early years of Constantine's reign offered a glimmer of hope, a beacon of potential change in a kingdom long mired in tradition. He embarked on a series of reforms aimed at modernizing the kingdom and addressing the grievances of his people. He invested in education, expanded industry, and relaxed censorship, hoping to usher in a new era of enlightenment and progress. But his efforts were too little, too late. The momentum of change was sluggish, and the people's patience was wearing thin. The pace of change was glacial, failing to match the soaring expectations of his subjects. Bureaucratic red tape and entrenched interests slowed every initiative. The nobility, accustomed to centuries of privilege, viewed Constantine's reforms with suspicion and disdain. They saw him as a threat to their power and influence, fearing the erosion of their long-held privileges. They resisted his every move, using their considerable wealth and influence to obstruct his agenda, ensuring that progress remained a distant dream. The whispers of dissent in the gilded halls of their palaces grew louder, their discontent a palpable force that threatened to undermine the throne. Meanwhile, the common people, crushed under the weight of poverty and oppression, grew increasingly disillusioned with each passing day. Constantine's reforms did little to alleviate their suffering. The promises of a better future seemed hollow and unattainable. The gap between rich and poor continued to widen, creating a chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. The cities swelled with desperate souls fleeing the countryside in search of a better life, only to find more misery and despair in the crowded urban centers. The seeds of rebellion, sown in the fertile ground of poverty and inequality, began to sprout, nourished by the growing discontent. In the shadows, secret societies formed, their members united by a shared hatred of the regime and a burning desire for change. They were determined to overthrow the oppressive rule. They met in clandestine gatherings, plotting the downfall of the Tsar and his oppressive regime, their plans becoming more concrete with each meeting. Their whispers of sedition spread like wildfire, fanned by the winds of discontent and the shared suffering of the masses. The countdown to revolution had begun, and the kingdom stood on the brink of a seismic shift. Discontent grew among the people, fueled by the harsh policies and perceived injustices of Tsar Konstantin Tih. The once loyal subjects began to murmur in discontent, their whispers growing louder with each passing day. Secret meetings were held in dimly lit rooms, where plans were meticulously crafted to overthrow the Tsar and restore peace to the land. Blacksmiths worked tirelessly, forging weapons for the impending conflict, while spies gathered crucial information. The tension in the air was palpable as the kingdom stood on the brink of a full-scale revolt. Among the key figures were Ivan the Bold, a former general disillusioned by the Tsar's tyranny, and Elena the Wise, a noblewoman whose family suffered under the Tsar's rule. Ivan, driven by a sense of duty to his people, declared, "We must rise against this oppression for the sake of our children and their future." Elena, motivated by a desire for justice, rallied the nobles, stating, "We cannot stand idly by while our land is torn apart by greed and cruelty." The initial actions against Tsar Konstantin Tih included distributing pamphlets to spread their message, using secret signals to coordinate their efforts, and organizing torch-lit marches to demonstrate their unity and resolve. The people, driven by a desire for justice and freedom, were ready to risk everything. The stage was set for a dramatic and bloody confrontation that would change the course of history. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe for more mind-blowing discoveries and thrilling adventures into the past.